speaker, let me just double check my notes, is Aleksejs Beloglazovs. Hopefully I'm saying these right as we're moving along, who is an entrepreneur and practicing psychologist slash psychotherapist. So practicing psychologist, psychotherapist, currently pursuing a master's degree in philosophical counseling at the West University of Timisoara and a postgraduate program at the Institute of Humanistic and Existential Psychotherapy in Lithuania. Aleksejs is speaking on his work, Being in a Game, a phenomenological bridge between life and counseling. Aleksejs?
Yes. So can you hear me, everyone? Okay, perfect. So good morning. Sorry, good afternoon or good evening already for some of us. Yeah, thanks a lot for your introduction. I know there are like many challenging words and and names, but I think you made it perfect. So before I dive into specific idea that I want to explore today, I want to start with something fundamental and loud. So if we strip everything back and look at human existence at its core, what do we see? And I would say that I would agree with some famous philosophers who was saying that we see human existence, which is shaped by meaning, engagement, maybe by some other powers, depending what philosophy you are keen of, and the constant tension between habit and transformation. So we live our lives within a structured world filled with familiar patterns, routines, expectations, but we have these moments of change, and this is what counselors are heavily working for, at least some of us, moments when we step out of ordinary, questioning our ways of being and reimagine ourselves. In existential phenomenological tradition, particularly Martin Heidegger concept of being in the world, it helps us to understand that we're never just isolated individuals. We are always already embedded in a world of significance. However, within this shared world, different modes of being emerge. So we can distinct between different modes of being. And today I want to suggest and to offer and to explore one particular mode, being in a game, and how it can serve as a bridge between everyday life and counseling process. I will draw here on Heidegger ideas about everydayness, idea about the they, das man, and being ahead of itself, as well as insights from Johann Huizinga and Eugene Fink, both of whom have written extensively about nature of the play. And I will argue here that play is not just entertainment, play or game. It offers a powerful way to understand human experience. Also, during the process of counseling, it helps to understand and it also helps to transform. Counseling, I suggest, can be seen as a structured space that shares some essential characteristics with play. I will discuss that in details, but it is also temporary. It has some flexible, structured rules. It allows for all experimentation, and it offers a suspension from everyday obligations. So this perspective will help me to rethink how people engage with self-exploration, growth, and transformation. So through this topic today, I will outline three key ways of being in life, being in a game, and being in a counseling. And I will try to explore how game structures can either foster genuine transformation or become means of escape. So let's begin from the start, from the beginning. Heidegger emphasized that human existence is always engaged with the world. We do not exist as detached observers, but we are embedded in meaningful structure of relationship, habits, and tasks. And this fundamental condition is being in the world, how he called this. Most of life unfolds in the modes of everydayness, where actions follow pre-established norms rather than individual existential reflection. And there is one dominant force that is shaping everydayness, and this is so-called in English the they, das man, which dictates how one should think, act, and engage with others. So in this mode, we are not fully autonomous, but we conform to some social expectations. We're living as one among many. This lived immersion in everydayness often leads to an authentic mode of being, where we lose our ability to critically question our roles. Life becomes habitual, driven by unexamined routines, and identity is shaped externally rather than through genuine existential engagement. There is one mode which is which would be required by authentic existence. Heidegger calls it being ahead of itself, meaning we should have ability to project ourselves into the future and recognize our possibilities. In everyday life, individuals often do not live as a self-determined project, but instead follow patterns dictated by the Dasman. So this lack of existential projection results in a passive mode of being, where routines and distractions replace deeper self-reflection. Everyday absorption often marks existential responsibility. Daily concerns appear as a totality of existence, obscuring the potential for authentic engagement. The unexamined adherence to the Dasman makes it difficult for individuals to step back, critically assess our own being, reducing life to a sequence of reactions. And also temporality plays a crucial role in this state. Individuals immersed in everydayness experience time as linear, dictated by routines, external schedules, and socially imposed deadlines. So life progress is in a structured, predetermined way, leaving little room for some reflections. I also want to mention existence of some existential threats and how we avoid those. Like existentially saying that the human existence is marked by unavoidable existential concerns, death, isolation, freedom, and meaning. And everyday life governed by others often functions as a buffer against these anxieties. So in consulting, we often can see how individuals avoid confronting their potential deaths, their mortality, their fundamental aloneness, and the demand to create meaning. They just immersing themselves in tasks and distractions.
Yeah.
So this avoidance is not merely passive, but an active structuring of reality to minimize discomfort. So it requires a lot of effort actually to structure this alternative reality to minimize the discomfort. And this world of everydayness provides a semblance of security where meaning is predefined, the questions of ultimate concerns are either postponed or invisible. And this structured avoidance keeps us within some familiar existential enclosure where engagement with deeper questions remains unnecessary or overwhelming sometimes. Then now I want to touch the concept that I'm offering, being in a game, as some kind of thing that allowing to step outside of everydayness. Play, as examined by philosophers like Huizinga or Eugene Fink, exists in a structured yet flexible realm. It distinct from both everyday life and total detachment from reality. It provides a space where individuals can engage with new possibilities without immediate real-world consequences. So it's kind of a safer space for experiencing new possibilities.
Oh.
A defining feature of play is temporariness. It unfolds within a bounded time frame. It's separate from continuous flow of daily concerns. So when we are in a game, when we are playing, we are just separated from these daily concerns, and we live in some kind of a little bit alternative reality. Unlike real life commitment, play has a clear beginning and end. It's creating a structured space for exploration. And one more key element there is our rules and roles, which provide internal logic and shape behavior within the game. Whether formal or improvisational, these structures define the limit of participation. Crucially, play also involves a suspension of external stakes. It can be serious, but consequences are not absolute. Participants can pause the game, can restart the game, or exit without lasting real-world consequences. This allows for experimentation, creative engagement. So it offering kind of a temporary refuge for testing alternative ways of being. So we can test the other ways of being in the game. And these attributes make play a very powerful existential tool capable of fostering both transformation and avoidance. In counseling, its structured freedom can enable deep exploration, yet its detachment from external stakes can raise a question of whether it leads to meaningful change or serve as a retreat from authentic engagement. So basically, I'm saying here that there are at least two types of games. The game which allows to project, to try out things, or the game which is like escape. Play in counseling basically can take different forms, and one one role is, as I said, is a projection, and another is function as escape. So these two tendencies are not rigid categories, but rather orientation that may emerge depending on how play is engaged within the counseling process. Maybe a little bit more on how I understand that play as a projection, where it serves as a space for experimenting with new ways of being. In this meaning, play aligns with this Heidegger's being ahead of itself, an existential capacity to reach beyond one current state and explore potentialities that have not yet been fully realized. Through creative engagement, role-playing, and hypothetical scenarios, clients can momentarily suspend and reach patterns and open themselves to new perspectives. This form of play can act as a catalyst for transformation, allowing individuals to test alternative futures, test our different aspects of themselves, and actively shape their evolving sense of identity. When play functions in this way, it supports some transformation, some existential movement, helping clients engage with possibilities in a way that foster meaningful change. But as I said, the play can also take a form of escape, where rather than facilitating exploration, it serves as a retreat from existential engagement. In this case, play does not disrupt everyday inertia, but reinforce it, offering a means to avoid confronting difficult emotions, existential questions, or like some realities. Clients may engage in playful through experiment or hypothetical scenarios without ever translating them into some lived experience, treating it's just as a space for entertainment, detachment, uh, escape, as I said. So rather than seeing these two modes as fixed or mutually exclusive, I think they can be understood as tendencies that may coexist also within counseling process. We just need to pay attention and to see, kind of when we're thinking about what kind of game is happening, like what clients are playing. Play exists in an altered temporal mode. Unlike the linear progression of time in everyday life, play composes and compresses and expands experiences. This flexibility allows for creative exploration, but also the illusion of indefinite postponement of real-life decisions. There was like uh, metaphor of Ran Lahav, which he used in his book. Well, he used like a metaphor of perimeter and Plato cave as like kind of as a metaphor for like the structures that people created for themselves and live within those. And he also compared the perimeter to a game where he suggested that individuals uh, suspend their external realities within structured frameworks. This allows them to navigate their identities through structured experimentation while remaining dimly aware of the broader existence. So now I want to say like more about being in counseling, the another state of us when we're coming to the counseling, how we exist there. Counseling like play also creates a structured yet flexible space where individuals can examine their self-perception and explore new possibilities. It provides a temporary suspension from daily concerns. It's allowing clients to reflect on their patterns of thought, emotion, and behavior. However, unlike play, there is a difference. Counseling does not encourage detachment from reality. Instead, it constantly fosters a balance between exploration and real-world engagement, ensuring that the self-reflection leads back to the life and leads to the meaningful change. Also, Ran Lahav compared the way people structure their life to games, and so basically this self-imposed constraint, which he refers as a perimeters, govern how individuals see themselves and interact with the world. And much like in a game, people internalize these structures, identifying with them so deeply so they become an unquestioned reality. But then we can study how the people play the game, and in counseling we can give this feedback back to the clients so they have a possibility to change the rules or the strategy how they play. So counseling does not simply attempt to break these patterns or replace one set of limiting beliefs with another. Instead, it invites clients to step in a position of greater authorship over their own game, to recognize the way in which they have structured their reality, their games, and to experiment with shifting the rules. Just as in a game where strategies can be revised, boundaries adjusted, and new possibilities explored, counseling helps clients become conscious of the choices they have within their existing framework. I just briefly wanted to mention some ethical considerations, because play metaphor in counseling does not necessarily need to be actively applied in every situation. Rather, it can remain just one of the perspective available only to the counselor, just an optic for the counselor, one lens among many that can help him to look onto the counseling process. Different clients, therapeutic goals, and contexts will determine the extent to which play as a concept or as an active element is useful. In some cases, it may serve just as a background framework, because it might not be really kind of very fitting to the way how client experience his life. I mean, like, you probably don't want to use a metaphor of a game if he's coming with a very severe issue or panic or like so. But this phenomenological kind of way of looking into the client, kind of through this play lens, might be useful for the counselor anyway. So maintaining a balance between playfulness and genuine engagement is crucial, of course, to ensure that client struggles are taken seriously. So just some conclusions as we come into to the end of this presentation. Let me just reflect on key ideas. So I propose a concept of being in a game as a phenomenological bridge between being in a life and being in a counseling. I compare being in a life with the fundament that was built by Heidegger with his being in the world. And in a contrast, being in a game introduces a different kind of space, one where time and identity become more flexible, allowing some creative self-exploration. Drawing on the insights of some philosophers, we can see how play can either serve as a way to project ourselves into new possibilities, or maybe sometimes as a means to escape from real engagement. And this brings us back to counseling. Counseling, like play, offer safe but structured space for exploration. But unlike pure play, it also demands accountability. It's not enough to experiment with new perspective in the session. Clients must ultimately bring their insights back into their life experience. And this is where counselors are helpers, where they're helping to experiment within a session, and they help to make sure that this will be taken, if the client wants to, of course, like into the life. Yeah, so I think that concept of being in a game can become a powerful tool, one of the tools for transformation. It challenges inauthentic patterns. It encourages deeper self-reflection. It might help individuals move toward a more engaged and self-directed future. And through a structured reflection, imaginative experimentation, and continual reintegration into real life, counseling may become a dynamic space where clients not just explore possibility, but they actively try out new possibilities. They try the strategy of their play, and they actively claim them as a part of their own authentic way of being. Thank you, and I'm very open for the questions.
That was excellent. Thank you. So as you said, we'll open it up for questions now, 20 minutes.
Yeah, I have a question.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
So, sorry I came in late. I had problems with my computer and zooming in, but I thought this was a phenomenal presentation, talk about phenomenological. And I can really relate to this notion of play. And I think what play allows is a shift in paradigms. We get stuck in a paradigm of thinking. And in play, we get the ability to be more flexible and think across different paradigms. It also, I think, allows you to sort of, and you see this a lot in very difficult situations, where people find humor or play, if you will, as a way to bear the unbearable. So it's a way to sort of blast open that paradigm that's suffocating and killing you. And so this is a way to allow you to breathe in another space, as I said, to make the unbearable bearable, and to and in a way, indirectly through the back door, confront the realities that are too heavy and too difficult to encounter going through the front door. And so I think this is, and it's sort of our human way, our nature's way of trying to adapt, adjust, be flexible in how we deal with very difficult situations. So, yeah, I think this is, and not just the anxiety, as you said, about life and death, but also personal guilt, neurotic guilt, existential guilt, not wanting to face that. And so these things really penetrate one's being. And so you try to escape those. And I think, last comment, that with play and humor, you, in a sense, can't escape. Because it's a way to confront you with something you don't want to confront. That's the beauty of it. Anyway, I thought it was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much for your comment. I think thanks for bringing up humor. I was thinking about that, of course, and like there are many great books and articles on this. If I would just start talking about that, that would be another maybe 20 minutes at least here. But I think they go very close together. The concepts of the play and the humor. And you're right. I mean, it's as philosophers were saying, play is a natural mode of existence. I mean, everyone is playing, and we sometimes forgetting that it's just it's a very natural mode of it just it takes as a sleep takes 1/3 of our day night, then also play takes a very big portion of our life, and we sometimes have this tendency of thinking about that as something very non-serious, but I mean it's a serious part of our life.
But it lets us confront things. So I mean, play and games in marriage gives you a way to deal with things that would otherwise turn into big fights.
Yeah.
So it's a flexible way of addressing serious issues, and then the person isn't directly confronted and becomes defensive. It becomes a way, as you said before, that you can then integrate it in your own way, that you can say, oh, maybe I can, because it's not forced on you by a fight.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Very interesting, this presentation. And I'm wondering a couple of things. First of all, is the game playing done as an in-session practice, or is it like a homework assignment where they go outside, of the counseling?
Yeah, I mean, you asking a very tough question, because I'm thinking about this optics, as I said, about this lens. When I'm doing my I have a small like existential psychotherapy practice, and I'm constantly thinking about that, and it's not so easy to integrate that into the session. Like, kind of the people have a different level of readiness for that, like they have a different reaction on even on the questions related to the games, like and etc. So like so far, I'm not thinking about any practical implementation. I'm just thinking that it's very useful for me to remember about these states and like to study that phenomenologically how those are different, and it's important for me sometimes to kind of to think about a session as a kind of a game, uh, and but sometimes I'm like when the client's giving me hints that they are open for that, I'm bringing more. I'm like, kind of especially when they're bringing metaphors, like from their life or examples from their life, when they're saying that they like to, to play, and this is the way how they play. For example, even real games, like, when they're telling me about the chess, for example, like I'm starting to be curious sometimes, and asking, kind of how that is related to their, real life. So like I'm not yet offering, well, maybe never, like, kind of any practical implementation of that, but I'm just, kind of trying to introduce this, kind of phenomenological kind of view on this state.
Well, then a follow-up here about existing techniques in
Hmm.
psychotherapy. For instance,
Hmm.
Fritz Perls' open chair approach. Um, role playing in general is a pretty popular kind of technique in psychotherapy. And I'm wondering what the connections might be between games and role playing as an example of in counseling forms of game playing. And so, what do you think?
Well, I think it is a game. I mean, like it's like, whenever you try out, when you are in a role playing game, you're trying out something that is not usual for the client or for both, and this is a game, and this game gives, the new perspectives, and this game gives a new, it enriches the vision of the client, and it gives the possibility to spend the time in that role, and to see how actually it is, kind of, is it as dangerous as I thought, is it as harmful as I was thinking about it. So, and that gives a new experience, and basically kind of, the safety of this place. I know that this is just a role-playing game. I know that this is my counselor or therapist. I know this is 1 hour session, kind of, I know that I can stop it. So there is some safety, but there is also new experience. And this is what actually I was talking about. So this is one of the, I think it's one and very, kind of colorful example of how this can be applied. But then I'm like, kind of, I probably not as pushy as Franz Perls, or not as provocative. I don't think that everyone need to play the game that I will suggest to them. So that's why I'm saying that, sometimes I just don't see the possibility to, kind of to offer something like that, kind of out of the box to the client.
Well,
But
here's a thought on it. We have new technologies, virtual reality technologies, and
Mhm.
they could be um, used to construct many, different games, and thus to offer the client the specific types of games that would resonate with them. A whole, litany of different types of games that can be incorporated, through the use of virtual realities. And that's something
Mhm.
that might be an offshoot, of what you're talking about, in the use of applications of games, which would give practical significance, not just the theoretical stuff that you're talking about.
Mhm. And that was the reason why I was kind of specifically outlining these two different modes of the game. I mean, like one is to escape. So like, the virtual games might easily become one that is offering an escape, not the transformative experience. In order to get a transformative experience, I think technologically we are completely ready for that. But like, kind of the question is how to there should be someone who is taking care that this experience is transforming or serving as a like maybe the virtual game with the presence of the counselor might be kind of a very good idea. So we need a kind of a guide, we need someone who will take us by the hand and like will take into the game and maybe will then help to reflect. But this is my quick ideas about that. I mean, like I'm just
Yeah,
thinking
and that's true, but that's
Mhm.
probably true for most techniques that are
Mhm.
used, in
Mhm.
counseling. And I've used role playing quite frequently, and it can be powerful, to an eye opener for clients. And if there were more uh, use of technology like virtual reality to make these games even more realistic, for the client, that might be an interesting thing to consider, as far as
Mhm.
applications of this phenomenological approach that you're talking about, as it can open up new avenues for more and more powerful techniques of role playing and virtual game playing.
Aleksejs, I'd encourage you to check the chat if you haven't already. There are a few interesting questions for you
Oh yeah.
with about 9 minutes to go.
Okay.
Just to give
Which one is
everyone.
who was the first? Okay.
Should be in order. I think I saw 3 total.
Yeah. Okay. So the question from Antonio.
There was the one from Kuma before, if I don't go wrong, Hami. If you want
Okay.
to,
From Kuma.
as you wish.
Yeah. Okay. When I think of the role of play in coping with anxiety, I think about Erik Erikson and okay. I'm curious why Heidegger for you. Did he say anything about play? Uh, no, I think Heidegger said a lot about like kind of how we live and many others said about like from existentialists. I think like this is a closest to me. Eugene Fink was saying a lot about the game as an existential phenomena, and Huizinga wrote like a perfect work on the game, on the play, and maybe Junger. But like with Ericsson, I think to me it's a little bit too technical. It's like I always when I talk about play and game, I'm trying to say it's not exactly this kind of games because he described some scripts if you mean like the game that people are playing, these are like very predefined scripts to me. I mean, like I think the variety of the game is way bigger. I mean, like maybe I'm a little bit like biased here, but like I find it like very narrow, like kind of. But like in one essence, he was right. I mean, like people are playing games, but I think decoding like 3, 4, 5, 7 like main scripts is it's kind of very deterministic to me. Like it's I think people are playing very unique games with very unique strategies. I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah. So I think I answered by Heidegger and Ericsson is not very close to me, but that's a matter of taste, I think, I would say.
May I add a quick
Yeah.
comment? When I was hearing your presentation, all I could think about was group therapy, and maybe like an interpersonal group. And I wonder if anyone here has ever facilitated a interpersonal group session, because I think there we have like community agreements and everything where you can really test out, certain things, and you're in a safe space, and you have co-facilitators there to really not just do vertical work but really horizontal work too for everyone, like how does everyone feel with what we're hearing and everything. And I think this would be so lovely within a philosophical lens. So yes, I just wanted to say that.
I would agree. I think that the group therapy is like a condensed simulation of life, as such, like with others, which is like very important aspect of that, with interpersonal aspect, and it allows to play out the different scenarios and to try out and to see your scenario of the how you live. So it shows like your way being with others. So and it's yeah, I mean like it's have like a safe space, temporality, etc. So that's a very good note. Yeah, I probably would need to add it like as an example. Thank you.
I think it's just Antonio left in the chat, and you may have addressed his question already. Questions.
A good part, yes, but I mean, whatever you want to say, just it's, I mean, from Europe.
Antonio, maybe can you just ask the remaining part?
Yeah, no, yeah. Trying to summarize, I mean, I was just curious if the idea is, if in your perspective you think it's more the general idea of the game as an experience, as a full experience with different things, that it's like attractive, or if there are just specific dynamics that could resonate the more or the less, like with other people. So like some people maybe, I don't know, more involved on the idea of role play as the idea to put themselves in someone else's shoes, or the idea of, I don't know, the analogy because this is something resonating with themselves. So just this.
To me, that is a green field, kind of it's like an open space to explore. I mean, like to me, it's just important to understand or to see that the game is a part of everyone's lives, whether they, think about it or not. And it's very transformative space, like and then of course people, have a different taste to different games, like some people prefer one type of game and and I mean, like from my practice, sometimes people just they just not acknowledging that they play game at all. I mean, like they say, I never played any games. That's a bold statement from many clients. I mean, like I'm taking that seriously, but of course, like then I trying it like next time and next time maybe sometimes, but they say, well, I never played any games, like never. Even when I was kid, I was very serious. Okay.
I understand. Well, of course, but all depends from the people. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question.
From my understanding, I might have this wrong. If being in a game is just kind of breaking out of your routine, isn't counseling, especially at first, just itself being in a game until it becomes routine?
That's a powerful question. I mean, like, well, I think when it becomes routine, I would say that's a symptom of something, like it probably it should not be routine, like it's always should be some, well, I mean, like it may be routine for some, obstacles, but it should be
I just mean
experience.
after a long period of time, once it becomes part of someone's routine specifically.
Well, yes, even a game can be a routine, but that's a different kind of routine. I mean, like it's like it's a routine in a sense that we are repeating that, but it's not a routine in sense that it's the same and follows the same rules. I think in counseling we always can change rules. And like, you know, kind of if I have a feeling with my clients or in my therapy that this is a routine, I'm sometimes thinking, okay, why should it be routine? You know, like why cannot I ask question to my therapist that I never asked before? Why don't I, you know, for example, you know, like why don't I ask what he think about my personality? Like, you know, kind of why I'm asking, why always waiting for something from him, you know, like, so why don't I change something in this routine? You know? And the new game starts here, you know, like sometimes completely next phase, you know, it's, yeah.
That's excellent. So it just seems that counseling is, though, holistically being in a game, and if it's done well, you're always being in a game in counseling because you're always changing things up. That's how I read that. But as I'm talking and seeing we're out of time, I'll just maybe let you respond real quick, and then we have to move on.
No, I think, yeah. Do I still have a question that I need to answer or?
I don't think so.
No, yeah.
Yeah, that was just a case study with LARP. I know we're out of time with this session, but about halfway through your talk, I remembered last year I had a client who participated in a LARP group, the live action role playing, and he also was in some sports groups. So it was really interesting because he was taking it upon himself he wanted to reflect on the dynamics happening in those groups. And it was like a really conscious effort to try on different hats and ways of being. And then we would reflect on that during our sessions, amongst other things. But it's the play is definitely a powerful method.
Yeah, thanks a lot for this case study. That's an interesting reading. I will.
Thank you, everyone, for the interesting questions and comments. Okay, great presentation. And now